From muddy gambling tents, through salt-crusted dice halls, to gilded wagering tables, all those who have jealous thoughts of another's wealth know the unending hunger that comes from an encounter with the River King. Tahm Kench is a demon of the water, with an unending appetite for games of chance, such that this beast became a symbol for many gambling dens and houses of sin. One story tells us how Tahm Kench lured in an inventor, and offered her an idea certain to change her life and make a wealthy clan notice her. All he asked for in return was a single lock of her hair. The ambitious woman made the trade, and true enough, her work landed her a lucrative contract. But one invention would not satisfy, and Tahm Kench wandered by, this time asking for all her lovely braids. Not wishing to disappoint her new patrons, the inventor agreed, and Tahm Kench ate her hair on the spot. Still, the woman was unable to find the one great invention that would make her name famous. The demon came again, offering a deal that would take the tip of one of her fingers. The following week it was an ear. A year passed, and by then there was little left of the woman. Finally, she called to Tahm Kench herself, begging him to make it all stop. He laughed as he opened his jaws wide, telling her he would protect her from herself, and promptly swallowed her whole. The River King, the Great Waddler, Old Yawn Belly, Two Coats, the Demon. Tahm Kench is known by many names, but all those who speak them have learned a singular truth. No matter how alluring his words may be, in his mouth you will be lost. The name Tahm Kench is not his own. It is actually the name of a gambler that he ate, but people have since just associated the names with one another. In the game League of Legends, his appearance is based on how people from the city of Bilgewater see him, as he is more culturally important and relevant there. He has no real name and no form of his own. He only manifests into what people identify him as. In the League of Legends universe, when creatures are described as demons, it usually means that the creature was created by dark energy that is the byproduct of negative emotions or feelings. I lightly touched on this in my Fiddlesticks video. If you want to hear more about the supposed demons of Runeterra, you should check that video out after this one. He can eat whatever he wants, but his specific cravings are only satisfied when he strikes a bargain. He seems to only eat people whose emotions he can manipulate. There are several pop culture creatures we can compare this to, such as Stephen King's cosmic predator, It, which preferred its victims' bodies salted with chemicals of fear. His peculiar eating habits are not the only thing Tahm Kench shares with other fantasy creatures. While researching his lore, I discovered that Tahm Kench's design and playstyle may have been loosely based on a Banderhob, which is a toad-like creature from the Forgotten Realms that kidnaps unsuspecting victims by swallowing them alive and carrying them to their master's lair. This fascinated me. I was completely unaware of the existence of a Banderhob, but also that Tahm Kench could easily be mistaken for one of these creatures. And if you want a quick and easy stat block for Tahm Kench, I highly recommend that you use a Banderhob stat block from Volo's Guide to Monsters. During his design process, they imagined that his mouth could be more than just a source of physical danger. They wanted it to also express his charismatic speech, which he uses to lure enemies into harm's way. This outward charm would be something he used to mask his darker true intent, devouring his prey. Tahm Kench is said to represent the greed and gluttony of mortals, similar to how Fiddlesticks represents fear and Evelyn represents lust. Tahm Kench in my mind would make a great warlock patron. I could imagine a PC who had unwisely struck a deal with the River King for knowledge and power, and Tahm could show up at some point to collect his debt and potentially eat that player. One important detail that is not brought up in his lore, but is shown in-game, is his lashing tongue can stun even a heavily armored warrior from a dozen paces. I did not give him a stun when I designed his stat block, because he already had other ways to restrain creatures, but it is more than capable of stunning victims. So Tahm Kench was fairly easy to translate from his lore and video game adaptations. I decided to take the Banderhob stat block and build off of it to make him more of a legendary threat. The first thing I did was increase his hit points and put him on par with other D&D made champions, such as Misfortune, Gangplank, and the last D&D champion I designed, Ilaoi. I gave him saving throws and proficiencies in physical and charismatic skills because he has shown to be a master of manipulation and a deadly combatant. For his special abilities, he is obviously capable of swimming and even breathing underwater, so we made him amphibious. I decided to give my Tahm Kench advantage on deception, persuasion, and intimidation skills, because he is known for how dangerously convincing he can be, and how good he is at manipulating people through their desires. The Banderhob has a special ability to locate any creature or item as long as it possesses a piece of what it is trying to locate. I thought this ability matched Tahm Kench very well. In his lore, he was able to locate people he had made bargains with, so it only made sense to allow him to locate and magically teleport to whomever he has made a deal with. We gave him resistance to non-magical attacks and a passive regeneration identical to a troll. The reason I did this is because in the video game adaptation, he is very hard to kill. However, I have allowed creatures to disable this regeneration the same way you would disable a troll's regeneration, with fire and acid attacks, of course. In his lore, it is never mentioned that he has a weakness to these kinds of attacks. However, in League of Legends, a debuff called Grievous Wounds reduces his healing. I decided to give his D&D adaptation the same kind of weakness. For his attacks, I copied and pasted the attacks from the Banderhob stat block, and I renamed them with a few minor changes, such as his attacks are a +10 to hit instead of a +8. And the Swallow attack now kills a creature that it reduces to 0 hit points. The Banderhob did not try to kill those that it swallowed, it instead just knocked creatures unconscious so they wouldn't struggle during its delivery. We gave him his ultimate ability from League of Legends in the form of a less restrictive Shadow Step. He can now teleport anywhere he can see within 120 feet, with or without a creature inside his belly. At first I was going to allow Tahm to use this ability whenever he wanted to, but after some consideration I decided it would be put on a recharge. This is because he could easily devour a player and then teleport 120 feet away every turn, making it near impossible for other players to catch up and save their ally. Lastly, I contemplated giving him legendary actions and reactions, but I decided I personally would not use them under normal circumstances. My reasons for this are that he's extremely healthy when it comes to combat. He has resistances to non-magical attacks, a medium AC, passive regeneration, and the ability to restrain creatures and teleport away from danger. But if you feel he should have legendary actions, then I encourage you to do so. After all, he isn't just some run-of-the-mill frog monster. He is the River King. As always, I leave the link to the monster stat block and my script in the description for you guys to check out. If you enjoyed that video, you should leave a like and subscribe to the channel. We also have a Facebook group where we discuss video topics and new additions to our community. The link to that group, and other ways to support the channel, are in the description. Thank you to all the mages out there. Until next time, bye-bye.